This is episode 3 of the Preston Kelly Show. And this week, we're going to be covering week 1 of the NFL season. We just wrapped up the first official week of the new NFL season last night. Uh, but we are going to just take a little bit to kind of just go over what happened from all the biggest games. We don't have enough time to cover all the games. So we're just going to take a look back at all the primetime games and one game that was played at 4 o'clock on the Eastern time, and which ended up being the biggest games of the weekend and the most pivotal games. Of course, that's what you expect being the primetime games. But we're going to kind of just take a deep dive into these games, kind of some reactions, uh, and just, talk about what we saw on the field and maybe what we can expect from these games. So the first game, we're going to kind of go in order here. So we'll start with the Thursday night game that was between the Eagles and the Cowboys last Thursday night. The Eagles, of course, are the defending Super Bowl champions, and they are taking on a longtime rival, the Dallas Cowboys. And this game was being looked at as, you know, Dallas, they had just traded Micah, and that was the big thing. Like, how is this team going to play now that they're without the biggest defensive superstar on the team? The reason why the defense played so well, new, and especially with a new head coach, new coaching staff, and a more healthy offensive team. Looking forward to this season. Losing Micah, of course, was a big pivotal part. So that game was actually a pretty competitive game. It ended up being very competitive and not as high scoring as some maybe would have thought. The Eagles did win the game. They beat the Cowboys 24-20. I think the biggest takeaway that we can take from this game, watching it, was how well the Cowboys seemed to keep Philly's offense in check. And sure, you might go look back at the stats and specifically rushing yards. I think Philly had 158, which is still a big number, but considering that you did lose Micah, that honestly, they held Saquon in check. And the main reason that they were able to achieve uh, having that many rushing yards because Jalen Hurts was very, very good on the ground. The Dallas left gave him many opportunities, as well as the Eagles kind of just giving him time whenever something wasn't open because he didn't have the best game in the air. He was only 19 of 23 for 152 yards passing. So he took off and ran the ball a lot this game. In fact, he had 14 carries for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was really the focal point in this offense. And, thank God for his offensive line because if they wouldn't have played out the way that they did for him, you know, we may be talking about a different ball game here. And the reason being is because their two biggest superstars didn't go off the way that maybe we thought they would. Saquon didn't have a bad game, by no means. He only had 60 yards on the ground on 18 carries, but it was AJ Brown that was a big kind of like, big reaction to how he was utilized during that game, as he only had one catch and it was for 8 yards. I don't even think he had a target until like the fourth quarter of that game. So that was a big kind of just like, okay, like you have a superstar in AJ Brown, and even having Devontae Smith out there, this passing game should be looking a whole lot better, but it wasn't. And I know a lot of people might also say that this is week 1, and I think that does in fact play into this. But at the same time, too, you kind of want these teams to be able to really establish their offenses, specifically like, especially an offensive team like Philly. You want them to establish both sides of the offense, the run game and the passing game. And I think it'll come. By no means should we be panicking at all. That Jalen didn't have the biggest game in the uh, passing side of things. AJ Brown didn't go off in the stat sheets for that reason. So I think it's going to be okay. But if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, looking at this game, you should take this game as a big W. Even though that you lost, you didn't get your butts whooped, and you played a very, very competitive ball game. I mentioned before that, I thought that this offense was going to play really, really Stoudemire, who's our new head coach, who's been the offensive coordinator for the past few seasons. When Dak has been healthy, he's played really well under Brian Stoudemire. And now not only is he healthy, Ferguson's out there and healthy. CeeDee Lamb is, of course, still out there. And George Pickens, you have all these weapons out there. And, this offense is going to probably play really, really well this season. And I'm very excited to see this offense play. Even though I am a Washington fan, I think it is going to be a really, really good offense. And I think the biggest weakness that people were talking about for this offense is their running game. They didn't have, a bona fide starting running back. Sure enough, the guy that they used the most in this game that had arguably the biggest game on the offense was Javonte Williams. He carried the ball 15 times, only had 54 yards, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he played really, really well early and really helped this offense and this run game kind of get going a little bit and kind of tell people like, okay, yeah, we do have somewhat of a plan for the running game here. Like this offense, maybe does have a little bit more of an idea. Just clean up things on the defensive side. I think that we'll have, and there's a lot of positive things that we can maybe look forward to the season, towards the season coming. And I still think, it is still week 1. So we're not going to kind of just make these big aspirations for both sides, really, of what they can be and what they can't be, because, who knows what this Dallas offense looks like and here in a few weeks. Who knows what this Philly offense will look like here in a few weeks. I'm sure that they will they will figure it out, and they're going to become the same old Philly, overpowered offense that they have been the last few seasons. And I think if we saw that Philly team, that specific kind of Philly offense that we normally get in the NFL the past couple of years, I think this game might be a little bit different. I'm going to be this game, whenever this game happens next, I don't know off the top of my mind when Philly plays Dallas again, but arguably this will probably be a very different ball game if I'm being completely honest. So it's not to say Dallas won't keep up in the offensive range or anything like that. I just don't think that, their defense is strong enough to handle the max potential of this Philadelphia offense. Realistically, there are not a lot of offense or defenses out there that can. So I think Dallas is, kind of walking away with a small victory here. They have a lot of positives that they can play into the future with their opponents in the future, considering what they were able to do here week 1. So if you're a Dallas fan, I think that you saw a lot of positives maybe that you weren't expecting to see on Thursday night that you're very happy to see. If you're a Philly fan, I would not be afraid at all. I think you're just fine. You got the W. It maybe not have been the way that you wanted to get it, but you still won the week, so you should be happy about that. Now, Friday night game, the game in Sao Paulo, something like that, South America, was between the Chargers and the Chiefs. This was also a big divisional game that I was very much anticipating to see what this year 2 team with Jim Harbaugh looks like. Justin Herbert back out there with maybe a little bit some more weapons. Second year, Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen is back in the Chargers offense. Can Quentin Johnston do anything in that Chargers offense? Omarion Hampton's out there with Najee Harris. There was a lot of things to look forward to with this Chargers offense, as well as the defense. That defense is going to be disciplined, especially when you play under Jim. So I was looking forward to this matchup. And for the Kansas City side, again, looking to see how this offense plays out. How much help is Mahomes going to have? Kelsey's getting a little bit older. Are we going to see some of that age show a little bit? Rashee Rice is suspended for the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. So now we're looking at Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown. And I would have said Xavier Worthy, but Xavier Worthy got hurt early on to this game. So those were really the 2 pivotal guys that we were looking for to seeing how they would play in this situation in this game. And it was a very competitive game, and sure enough, the Chargers came out with the victory. Now, what does this game look like maybe with the full healthy Chiefs offense? I don't know. We'll see down the line whenever Rice is back, and we'll see how long Worthy truly ends up being out for. But I think Kansas City held their ground. At the end of the day, you can never count out Patrick Mahomes, whether you like him or not. He is proven to be obviously one of the better quarterbacks in this league, and time again, it seems like he's able to stay in these games and maybe even have some late time heroics. But this was a huge game for the Chargers. Week 1 ever. This is it. I don't want to say it felt like almost like a must win for them for the Chargers, but it did feel like okay, if you really want to establish this team and how good that you're trying to make this team make out to be, you need to win this game. And sure enough, Justin Herbert and the boys went out there and they balled out. Justin Herbert specifically had himself a great night. He was 25 for 34 passing with 318 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he was out there slinging the football. Now, I will say, I wasn't able to watch the first little bit of this game. I was at my high school football game doing some volunteer stat work for them. So I wasn't able to catch the first part of this game, but sure enough, I tuned in a little bit later and I saw the end of that game. So I honestly, I tried to watch as many highlights as I could, but from the highlights that I saw of Herbert and from the second half on that I saw of that game, that I watched that game, man, Herbert looked phenomenal. And I really hope, you know, this is how he continues to play for the rest of the season. It just seems like that's what happens when these quarterbacks start dating celebrities. I mean, Josh Allen got married to Haley Steinfeld, or got engaged to Haley Steinfeld last year, and sure enough, he goes off a win MVP. Now all of a sudden, Justin Herbert's with Madison Beer, and he's beating Patrick Mahomes, throwing over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Is that week one magic? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm very excited to watch this Chargers team. They pulled off the victory 27-21 against Kansas City. You know, Herbert was spreading the ball all around. I think that was the big takeaway that I had, was that everybody was getting a lot of attraction. I wrote down a stat that between Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey, and Keenan Allen, all three of those guys had either 5 or more receptions with over 65 yards in receiving. Allen had a touchdown, and Johnson even had 2 touchdowns. That was another big thing that I think people are going to kind of overlook. These big sports shows won't talk about, but Quentin Johnson, really, we've been waiting for him to kind of like prove to be that first rounder superstar that the Chargers wanted him to be, drafting him a couple years ago. And now in this game, he comes out here and he balls out and has a great game. I think another player that people were looking forward to seeing having maybe a really, really big game was Omarion Hampton. He didn't have the greatest game, greatest rookie debut at all. I mean, he really he's now proven to be the starting running back for this team. I think Najee had like 1 carry. Is that because maybe he's still a little bit hurt from the firework incident that happened? I'm not sure, but obviously he was good to go in that aspect. But either way, they are telling the world right now that Omarion Hampton's our starting running back, and I do think that he's going to ramp up. I was a UNC fan. I know exactly what he's capable of. He's just a little pit bull. He'll run you over. He's great in the running and passing game, really, if you watch him. And I'm excited to see this Chargers offense when they really reach their full potential here, once they kind of get going a little bit with the season. Kansas City, like I did with the Eagles, except they won their game. Like, I think they're going to be okay. Hollywood Brown had a really, really good game. He had 10 catches for 99, 100 yards. Like, he played his butt off, being put in the situation that he was in with the top 2 receivers going down with a suspension and an injury. Mahomes obviously still has his weapons that he can utilize with, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, and even Juju Smith-Schuster are balling out. So I think you're fine. You should feel fine if you're a Chiefs fan. Sure, you did lose the first week, but I mean, it's week 1. There's still so much football to be left played. This team's going to ramp up a little bit more here in the couple of weeks, and I think you're going to be fine. Sure, you do play in a little bit more competitive division this year than it was last year, looking at it with some of the improvements Vegas made. Denver obviously was a playoff team last year, and they only got better. Well, you just played the Chargers. You saw what they're capable of. So you don't want to wait too long for this team to get ramped up. You just lost your first divisional game in week 1. Got to get back on track. I totally think that they're capable of it. That's just what the Chiefs tend to do. Can't count out Andy Reid. Can't count out Patrick Mahomes. I think they're going to be just fine. The third game that we're going to talk about happened on Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern time between the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers. The big headline for this game was obviously Micah Parsons' debut with the Green Bay Packers. What is this team going to look like with Micah? How is Jordan Love going to look this year? Can he stay healthy? How's Detroit going to look now that they've lost both of their coordinators to head coaching jobs? Now that they've got some new faces in the building. Been using the week one excuse a lot, but I really can't help but say, I told you so. I've been saying for a while now that I think Detroit was going to take a step back. I still don't. It's not that me thinking that they're going to be a bad team, but I did think that they were going to take a massive step back, considering you just lost two great coordinators, two great coaches with Ben Johnson in the offense and Aaron Glenn on the defense. All of a sudden, now you got two new coordinators in the building, and what does that look like? How are we going to adapt to this? And sure enough, they came out here week one and they got their teeth kicked in. I mean, that game pretty much was not competitive at all if you look at it. Packers won 27-13, I believe the score was. I didn't write down scores. And big note too, I was obviously flipping around on red zone and stuff, but obviously Jordan Love, seeing how he played with his touchdown passes and his playing time and everything, really just established this new kind of Green Bay look. The defense looked great. Obviously, Micah got his first sack towards the end of that game. One interesting stat that I wrote down for Jordan Love was that he threw the ball to 10 different guys. When you go on ESPN, NFL app, whatever you go to look on to review stats and box score, you will see 10 different names for different guys that Jordan Love threw the ball to. And that just honestly wowed me. I mean, that's awesome. It's showing how many weapons that Jordan Love trusts and this offense is willing to use, how many people they're willing to get. You look at a bunch of these teams like a Dallas or a Cincinnati, maybe even though they have two stud receivers, but these teams that kind of have like that one bona fide superstar wide receiver or whatever, Green Bay, they don't have that. They don't have that one guy on the offense that is a receiver that's like, okay, he's a game takeover guy. Like he's going to be a guy that has 10 catches, 12 catches a game for over 150 yards. They don't have that. They just have a bunch of different guys. They're the youngest team of football, and they have a bunch of different receivers and a bunch of different offensive guys that are just hungry to get every single snap and catch that they can get. Obviously, it's not like he threw for over 300 yards. He only had 188 passing with 2 touchdowns, but still, he played great, and that defense really showed up. So Micah Parsons effect. Whether he had 5 sacks or had 1 sack like he did, like that defense balled out. The biggest takeaway that people are going to take away right here is that Goff on the stat sheet had a solid day. He was 31 of 39 for 225 and a tutty, also with 1 pick. But you think of the Detroit offense, and there's kind of like 3 big, the trident heads on that offense. That'd be Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sonic and Knuckles, the nickname for Jahmyr and David Montgomery, they were held to under 30 yards rushing. Both of them. Both guys were. And then you look at Amon-Ra on the other side of the football, or excuse me, the kind of the other side of the offense in the receiving game. He was held under 50 yards passing. Yeah, I think he had 45 on 4 catches to be exact. They kept the big dollars in check. That's really where that Detroit offense thrived last year. And maybe they're starting to figure that out a little bit. Maybe obviously the offense is probably just maybe a little bit different under the new coordinator, but they're big, the guys that they counted on whenever they were playing these games were the 2 running backs, obviously having a 2 running back type game, and Amon-Ra St. Brown to go out there and get you like 10 catches, 12 catches a game. And they weren't able to do that. And that's why they got beat the way that they did. So the biggest thing for Detroit ends week 1, plenty of football left, but you got to establish those guys in the game. You have to get the ball in the hands of Jahmyr, David, and Amon-Ra as much as you can. Obviously, if you're not able to do that, you see what happens. You don't do good at all. Like, they were held to 6 points, I think, until they scored like that last minute touchdown, just as like a hoorah score. Like they were already out of it. Like they were never in. It seemed like Jordan Love drove that team down and scored the first touchdown. So we'll see what Detroit can do. If they can obviously establish their big guys on the offense, I think they'll be just fine. Detroit's still a really, really good football team. I don't think there's a lot to be worried about. Obviously, it's kind of different. I think there is definitely some stuff that you want to maybe kind of just be like, okay, like kind of like maybe a little bit not happy with, but you can fix these things 100%. So I wouldn't be too worried if I'm a Lion fan. If I'm a Packer fan, I'm jumping for joy. Like, obviously, again, week one, we'll see how they look as time goes on, but Jordan Love keeps playing like the way that he's playing. If you keep establishing Josh Jacobs on the ground and keep letting him score touchdowns, I think he has like a franchise record 9 consecutive games with a touchdown. And that defense looked really, really good. Like they're going to give this division a run for its money. They just beat what was known as the head of the division in the Lions, and they honestly just might not stop. They might just keep chugging and chugging and keep trying to make a heck of a run out of this season, seeing what they got. So I'm really excited to watch the Packers play football this year. And again, I think Detroit will be just fine. The fourth game, though, I want to talk about this game before the fifth game, and that's the Monday Night Football game. So last night, the Vikings played at Soldier Field against the Bears. And I tell you what, it seemed like after that first drive, all Bears fans in the world wanted to wave their flags and say that this team was going to the Super Bowl. But in typical Chicago fashion, they slowed down just a little bit, and sure enough, they were leading by double digits when it went to the fourth quarter, and they lost. Minnesota came back and won 27-24. Big headline for this game, obviously J.J. McCarthy's first official NFL start. Obviously got drafted last year, went down with a season-ending injury, starts for this team now. You know, all the hype was talking about how he looked absolutely amazing during camps and everything, and I was very excited to see how he was going to look with this new team, officially his team, moving on from Sam Darnold after last year. You obviously got Justin Jefferson. They traded for Adam Thielen, put him back in that offense. TJ Hawkinson's obviously still there. They kept putting pieces and pieces. Jordan Addison will be back, by the way, after the first 4 games of the season up for his suspension. Like, this team's looking to play competitive football. And it was a very rough game for them for the first little bit, but JJ came in. It was specifically it was a really rough game for JJ until after that second half. I don't know what exactly was said in that locker room, but whatever was said, he came out firing, and he scored 3 total touchdowns in the second half alone, and that being 2 in the air, 1 on the ground. He came out firing. You look at the stat sheet, and he only had 143 yards passing, but still, like, that offense is just going to ramp up, I think. And I'm very excited to watch Vikings football this year and watch how that offense goes. I'm a big J.J. McCarthy fan. I think he's going to do wonders in this league. On the Chicago side of things, same old Bears. Same old Bears. It's honestly kind of laughable to watch that game last night. I mean, I was so frustrated watching Caleb towards the end of that game, especially trying to that offense trying to handle 2-minute clock and kind of the in-game, all right, we need a score here. We need a score. We need to get a drive going. And it's like she was airmailing people, right? They couldn't get nothing going on the offense. I mean, they just handed the ball to Minnesota most of that time and just let them come back into that game. So I think Chicago has the chance to be, and the opportunity and the potential to be, a really, really good football team. I really do. I really like what the pieces that they've added around there. They just got to pull it together and go win some football games, like really bear down, no pun intended, and go win these football games. You can't look great in just the first half and then just fall flat on your face in the second half. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing that happened last year. They started off really hot, and then they just fell flat on their face after Washington beat them with that Hail Mary. This team needs to play with some pride and kind of just really just bolster up and play like a team. They just look lost out there the second half, specifically the fourth quarter. Like that game was theirs until the fourth quarter came around, and then Minnesota just took it from there and had no problem going back and getting in that game, taking the lead and winning that game. I think there were positives for Chicago that you can look at this game and take away and use it going forward. I'm a big Ben Johnson guy. I think he's going to do great for that team. I do think Caleb's going to play good football under him. It's going to help him playing for an offensive-minded coach and not somebody like Matt Eberflus. I think that offense is going to be good. Hopefully the defense can learn some things from those last few possessions from the fourth quarter. But even then, like I'm pointing straight at the offense. Like you're up double digits, and you just kind of just like, all right, there you go, and let Minnesota come back and win that game. And that's not to say Minnesota's a bad team by any means, or that like they had it easy, but like man, it kind of looked like it a little bit. I mean, they were playing with ease, but even then, that just shows the fire that Minnesota's got on that team. And I think they're going to be a dangerous team still. Um, I think there's still a good bit of developing for JJ McCarthy to come. But obviously, like that'll just come with experience. And I'm really looking forward to see what a midseason and a late season JJ McCarthy looks like with this team. Obviously, you've already got him with one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And like I already talked about, all these pieces that they've added on to the team for him. So I'm really pumped to see how he's able to look in the NFL. And I hope nothing but the best for him. The last game that we're going to talk about was maybe one of the craziest games I've ever seen. Definitely the craziest that I can think of in recent memory. If you saw my Instagram story, you know exactly what game I'm talking about. And that was a Sunday night football game between what I think are the two best teams in the AFC, the Bills and the Ravens. What a roller coaster of a game. I mean, moly. So I think obviously the biggest headliner or biggest takeaway from this game is going to be that Baltimore was winning this game 40-25 with like 11 minutes, or excuse me, I think it was 40-25 with like 4 minutes left in the game. I mean, and Buffalo just, it genuinely shocked me. Like I've learned not to count out Josh Allen, even if he isn't able to seem like he's not been able to come up clutch in the playoffs. But I've learned not to count him out. He still plays great whenever I kind of talked about he doesn't really have like that bona fide superstar receiver. But, you know, we'll talk about a guy in a second who played his butt off. But sure enough, I mean, both sides played great football offensively, maybe not on the defensive side, considering the game ended 41-40. But, I mean, look at Baltimore. Nothing crazy from Lamar in the passing game. He only threw the ball 19 times and threw for 209 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. And then, of course, in Lamar fashion, he had 6 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, my goodness, he carried the ball 18 times for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Even then, Zay Flowers had 7 receptions for 143 yards and a touchdown. The Baltimore offense played great. They just were not able, once it came time, that late game situations. So they got the ball back with like 4 minutes left to go. Obviously went down, scored that touchdown. It was 40-32. They weren't able to get the 2-point. No, they just kicked the PAT. That's right. So they just kicked the PAT, made it an 8-point game at that point. Baltimore gets the ball back with over 2 minutes left to go. Handoff to, I'm pretty certain it was Derrick Henry, and the ball gets punched out. Baltimore and Buffalo dives on it. They score a touchdown right then and there in the matter of like 30 seconds worth of game time, but they were not able to get the 2-point conversion. So it was 40-38, and excuse me, they I think they scored with right under 2 minutes left to go in the game, but they still had their 3 timeouts, and that was the biggest thing for them. They're like, okay, well, You still got a chance. And sure enough, that defense bear down and they got the ball back. Like it literally then game time, like Baltimore had a 20-second offensive drive and they punted the ball away. And Josh Allen did your Josh Allen thing and just drove it all the way down straight to the other side of the field. And Matt Prater, the guy who just had gotten there, took a red eye flight on Thursday night, got there Friday morning, went out there and kicked the game winning field goal for Buffalo. Man, I don't know how I would feel. Well, obviously, I would feel pretty pumped if I was a Buffalo fan, be pretty upset if obviously if I was a Raven fan, but kind of looking at it, from looking at how my team looked, obviously both offenses looked great. There was no signs of any just like the offenses were firing. They looked in midseason form. It's just the defense a little bit. And I mean, I just think that's kind of just what happens whenever you put two superstar teams up against each other and you're going to get a ball game like that. But even then, I think you're looking for a little bit more fight in your defense. When it comes to those late game situations, I think you can, I mean, I won't say that you can beat them up too much, but, I obviously, I think, the biggest kind of finger point is like Baltimore's defense and when it gets down to 4 minutes left and you're up by 15. I mean, we're looking at that Baltimore defense and saying like, all right, on paper, they might have the best defense in the NFL. Like, if you go look at that Baltimore defense is stacked, man. So craziest game I've seen in a while. I don't think there's any panic. Obviously, if you're a Baltimore fan, I think, you're going to be just fine. They're still, in my opinion, the second best team in the AFC. I think Buffalo proved to be the best team in the AFC on uh, Sunday night. Like you just put up the two best teams in the AFC. They put them up against each other in the first week of the season, and sure enough, they gave you a classic. So that game's going to be remembered for a long time. This was a playoff matchup from last year. If you remember how that game ended with Mark Andrews dropping that pass in the end zone, and obviously Buffalo beating Baltimore in the divisional round. I think that this says very well being a playoff matchup this year. I think this could be a big time discussion for your 1 and 2 teams in the AFC. I mean, this has AFC title game written all over it, honestly. Like I do seriously think that this will end up being a playoff matchup. I'm gonna come back and talk about the game that just happened right here in week 1, all the way in the playoffs whenever they do face each other. So I mean, obviously excited to watch both these teams play for the rest of the season. I'll kind of revocalize what I said about Josh Allen and the Bills before. They're already dangerous. You're dangerous enough with Josh Allen as your quarterback, no matter who you got out there. Just do think that they maybe do need maybe that one kind of just bigger piece for that offense for it to click. One superstar out there at the deadline. Even though I'm going to give this guy some love. Keon Coleman, he played his tail off. He had 8 catches for 112 yards on a touchdown. I saw a lot of positives from him last year. Obviously, being an ACC fan in football, I saw a lot of him at Florida State. And I truly do think, if they don't provide a good superstar wide receiver, kind of like I say, I want them to. Like, I think it would be cool to pair somebody up with Keon Coleman. But even if it doesn't happen, like, man, that offense is moving just fine. And if you are going to establish Keon Coleman as your big kind of number 1 receiver, I think you're just fine in that aspect if he's going to keep playing like he did on Sunday night, because he played so well. And then on the Baltimore side of the offense, we already mentioned the rushing stats and everything. We mentioned Zay Flowers. DeAndre Hopkins, by the way, with that insane one-handed touchdown grab that he had, proven that he can still go out there and play football, even if he's getting a little bit older. I love both offenses. Even talking about it, this has the potential to be our MVP conversation. It was last year. That was some big discussion. Should Lamar have won it over? We're going to get that battle this year, and I think that has very well being the chance being 1 and 2 an MVP again this year. So we'll see in that aspect. But those are all the games that I'm going to cover, just for time wise and in that aspect. But I want to go ahead and take this opportunity I'm hoping to release this podcast on a Thursday. I know haven't been consistent with, a specific date. I'm kind of just testing things out, seeing which dates work and not. But I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the Thursday night football game, the Sunday night football game, and the 2 Monday night football games that we got to look forward to this weekend. I will be in Chicago and Milwaukee this weekend for my birthday. My birthday's on Saturday, the 13th. So I will not be able to. It's a great Jaden in the offense. I think they'll ramp up. So a lot of positives. I didn't see anything regarding a sophomore slump from Jaden Daniels yet. Knock on wood. So I think this is going to be a very exciting Thursday night matchup. Obviously, you're asking me to predict a winner. I'm going to say Commanders with 100% bias in it. But I'm just looking for good football, and I'm hoping that the offense ramps up a little bit more. I'm hoping that maybe we see a little bit more Terry McLaurin in this game with them, kind of not looking like the Terry that we all know, just because he missed so much training camp and everything. So I'm hoping that week 1 matchup ramped it up a little bit for him, and we'll see him this week play like the old Terry that we know. If not, Debo Samuel played great game 1. That's just kind of the great thing about having Debo in the situation that Terry held out for so long. Debo was ready. He showed up and played like the Super Bowl superstar that we know Debo is capable of being. When both of those guys play, like we both know that they have the potential to, like that offense will be scary. And I'm really excited to watch that. Bill Krosky-Merritt had himself a great game on Sunday, the rookie. So again, I'm really excited to see these teams and see these two teams play against each other. I'm hoping the best for Washington, but yeah, it's going to be rough playing at Lambeau and against the Packers. Sunday Night Football, we'll cover that game. Will be the Falcons at the Vikings. Obviously, we talked about the Vikings already. The Falcons lost a nail biter between them and Tampa Bay on Sunday. Very close game. Obviously, a lot of positives from that game for the Falcons at that standpoint. I didn't really get to see a bunch of it because I was spending my time watching the Washington game. But, I mean, A.B. John had that 50-yard touchdown. I know that because he's on my fantasy team, and I got the alert. I did see the ending, though, of how that game ended with Baker driving down and scoring that touchdown late in typical Baker fashion, it seems like. So, I still think that this Atlanta team's pretty solid. I think that they just have, maybe a little bit more ramping up to do, like all these teams typically do when it comes to the early part of the season. So I'm excited to see this game. This is going to be a really fun game. Battle between two quarterbacks from last year's draft class, and Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy, in Minnesota. JJ McCarthy's home debut. So I think that this is going to be a great game. If you ask me to pick a winner, I could so see this going both ways, honestly. I'll give the Vikings the edge since they're at home. And I think that we're going to see a lot more from JJ McCarthy this week. And if he can just get the ball to Justin Jefferson a little bit more, like they'll be just fine and really winning games with a lot of conviction and everything. But I'm telling you, Atlanta, they're going to give them a fight. I know that they will. So I'm just obviously hoping for good football. But I'm just going to go with Minnesota since they're the home team. But the 2 Monday Night Football games that we got. So at first we got the Bucs at the Texans, and then the Chargers at the Raiders. We'll talk about the Bucs and the Texans first. Obviously, just talked about how Tampa Bay beat Atlanta. It was 23-20. Baker came out and won that game. The Texans, it was a rough game against the Rams. They lost 14-9. So this is at Houston. I'm obviously just go ahead and put it out there. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay in this one. I just don't think that this Houston team's the same old playoff team that we've seen the last couple of years. And I know it's week 1, but like you barely got the ball to Nico. And I mean, besides that, like Joe Mixon's hurt, and I just don't think CJ's got enough. I don't think that defense, obviously Derek Stingley is great. Danielle Hunter is great. Will Anderson is great, but will it be able to keep up, with a lot of the weapons that that Baker's got around him on Tampa Bay? Mike Evans is playing great. Emeka Egbuka played awesome on Sunday. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. I think he's going to obviously be a superstar of a wide receiver. Chris Godwin will be out for this game, but obviously Tampa Bay is going to get him back at some point, hoping that he can come back strong from that ankle injury he had last year. But I'm going to just go with Tampa Bay. I think they're going to come in. They're going to make a statement win. against Houston, and they're going to keep just trucking along. Like, this is a very solid team with the Buccaneers. Like they're going to just, no matter how many games they win or lose, they're just going to give every team, a dogfight, a run for its money. So, but I'm taking Tampa Bay in this one. The Chargers at the Raiders. Uh, Obviously talked about the Chargers already, but the Raiders, they won against the New England Patriots. Gino had like 362, I think the number was, yards passing. I mean, he had a crazy game, passing wise, but not a lot of high scoring at all. But I think they're going to kind of get put in check by Los Angeles this week. If Los Angeles plays anything like they did last week against Kansas City, they're going to win this game very easily. And I think that they are. I think they're going to just keep rolling and get a win here. They're set. They're another division game for them. That's going to feel very good for them if they can take this game and have already won 2 division games um, this early into the season. So I'm going to go with the Chargers here in very convincing fashion over the Raiders. I like the Raiders. I like the small pieces that they've added. I mean, Pete Carroll, how could you not like him? But I just don't think that they don't have enough at all to compete with the Chargers or frankly anybody in that division, if I'm being honest. So even though it is at Vegas and that stuff, I'm going to go with the Chargers for that game. But those are all the games that I'm going to talk about. That was the recap for week 1. And this episode should come out on Thursday. Kind of just last minute type thing, kind of trying to fit it all in really fast. So that's all the coverage that I've got for games in that aspect. I didn't cover any college games just because I didn't get to see a lot of them this weekend. I was busy doing film stuff on Saturday, and obviously there wasn't anything Sunday for the most part with NFL going on. So obviously Oklahoma did beat Michigan. We can talk about that for a quick second. But even then, I wasn't watching that game because I was also watching the UNC game. Bill Belichick got his first win. Let's go. Even though it was against Charlotte, and we still didn't look great, but we did get our win, and Oklahoma did take down Michigan. Oklahoma's quarterback, from the highlights that I've seen of him, he looks really, really solid. So maybe the Sooners are a little bit of a sleeper team going to the rest of the season. But we will see. And but that's going to do it for me on this episode. I hope you did enjoy. If you do, please please subscribe. Tell me what you think. Tell me your hot takes or whatever the comments that you have from this past first week of the NFL season. And I will see you guys next time.